What's happening, everybody? I'm Todd Tanner. Tonight we're talking about the one and only Bob Backland. What a career Bob Backland has had thus far. So let's get right down to his story on tonight. Robert Louis Backland was born on the 14th of August, 1949, and he is an American retired amateur and professional wrestler. He is best known for his appearances in the Worldwide Wrestling Federation and World Wrestling Federation from 1976 to 1984, and in the 1990s where he held the WWF Championship and a WWF Championship on 2 occasions. His first reign was the second longest in history. Backland was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2013. Backland began his career in amateur wrestling competing for the North Dakota State University Bison from the late 1960s to early 1970s. He began training as a professional wrestler in 1973 under Eddie Sharkey and competed for the American Wrestling Federation. He then wrestled for the National Wrestling Alliance and won the NWA Missouri Heavyweight Championship in 1976. Later that year, he joined the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, defeating superstar Billy Graham for the WWF Heavyweight Championship in 1978. He held the championship in 1983, where he lost it in a match against the Iron Sheik. Shortly after losing the title, Bob Backland left the WWF, but returned in 1992 and was in the 1993 Royal Rumble match for over an hour, a record held until the 2004 Royal Rumble at the 1994 Survivor Series. Backland won his second WWF Championship, defeating Bret Hart. He held the championship for 3 days before losing it to Diesel at a house show in Madison Square Garden. Well, that's wrestling sport entertainment. In addition to his time with the WWF/WWF, Backland has had success in wrestling and romance, championship wrestling from Florida, New Japan Wrestling, and was inducted into the Georgia Trigos/Luthez Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2016. Backland was born in Princeton, Minnesota in 1949. He is a graduate of Princeton High School, where he was a state finalist in wrestling. During his freshman year while at Waldorf College in Forest City, Iowa, Backland was an All-American in both football and wrestling, weighing in at 190 pounds or 87 kilograms, finishing third. During his sophomore campaign, Backland focused on wrestling and once again earned All-American honors. At that time, he weighed 190 pounds or 86 kilograms, and national runner-up. Backland was an amateur wrestler at North Dakota State University, winning the division in NCAA championship at 190 pounds in 1971. In 1972, Backland moved up to the heavyweight class and finished 5th at the NCAA D2 titles or nationals. He graduated from North Dakota State University with a degree in physical education. Great for you, Bob. Backland was trained for professional wrestling by renowned trainer Eddie Sharkey and made his debut for the American Wrestling Association, or the AWA, in 1973. Backland's clean-cut look and technical approach made him a natural face, and he quickly got over with the fans. After leaving the AWA, Backland traveled the United States working for the National Wrestling Alliance in its various territories. In 1974, Backland wrestled in Texas for Dory Funk Jr. and Terry Funk's Amarillo, Texas-based Western States Sports Promotion. In March, he defeated Terry Funk for the NWA Western States Heavyweight Championship, the promotion's top title. Backland held for 2 months before losing it to Carl von Steiger in May. In mid-1979, Backland started working for Georgia Championship Wrestling, or GCW. He teamed with Jerry Briscoe to win the NWA Georgia Tag Team Championship from Toru Tanaka and Mr. Fuji in October 1975. They held the championship belt for 2 months before losing to Les Thornton and Tony Charles. In 1976, Backland left Georgia for championship wrestling from Florida, or the CWF NWA Florida. Here he teamed with Stephen Kern to defeat Bob Orton Jr. and Bob Rupp for the NWA Florida Tag Team Championship. Backland and Kern lost the title to the Hollywood Blondes, Buddy Roberts and Jerry Brown, in October 1976. While working for NWA Florida, Backland also wrestled at St. Louis, Missouri for Sam Mutnick's St. Louis Wrestling Club. He defeated Harley Race to win the NWA Missouri Heavyweight Championship on April 23rd in 1976, and he lost the title to Jack Briscoe on November 26th. In late 1976, and this is the road to the title and early success now that I'm talking about. In 1976, Backland joined Vincent J. McMahon's Worldwide Wrestling Federation. He was managed by the Golden Boy Arnold Skaaland. Less than 4 months into his WWF run, Backland received his first shot at the WWF Heavyweight Championship against superstar Billy Graham, but he lost by count out. Through 1977, Backland received additional title shots at the champion, and his fortune started to change. The two went to a double countout in one match. Then Backland defeated Graham by countout. The title can only change hands via pinfall on submission. On February 20th, 1978, at Madison Square Garden, Backland finally scored a pinfall victory over Graham and won the title, despite Graham's leg being on the rope during the pinfall. Backland's early challengers for the title included Spurios Arion, Mr. Fuji, Ivan Koloff, George the Animal Steel, and Ken Patera, and had his first high-profile title match in Japan, defending against Antonio Anaki. He also won a series of rematches against Graham, including an April 1978 steel cage match at Madison Square Garden. 3 days after winning the WWF Heavyweight Championship, Backland clashed with the NWA World Heavyweight Champion Harley Race in a rare WWF versus NWA title match. Both titles were on the line, but neither changed hands as the two fought to a 60-minute time limit draw. Defending against other champions becomes a recurring theme in Backland's run with the title. He faced the AWA World Heavyweight Champion Nick Bockwinkel and two NWA World Heavyweight Champions Harley Race 4 times and Ric Flair once. He defeated the NWA Florida Heavyweight Champion Don Morocco. In 1982, he battled international champion Billy Robinson to a 63-minute curfew draw in Montreal. This is to be continued. The All-American Boy, Bob Backland. For Wrestling News Now, I'm Todd Tanner.